Welcome, everyone. Tuesdays at 2, here we are. Thank you for joining us today. And if you are joining us for the first time, let us know. This is our second episode. Last week we had our first episode. And if this is the first time you're tuning in, please let us know in the comments. And we'd also like it if we could find out where you guys are tuning in from. And I don't mean just Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. I think we have YouTube up and running this week. Can you tell us where you're coming from geographically? Where you're watching from geographically? If it's midnight right now, wherever you are, and you're tuning in, we just want to say thank you. So please let us know where you're tuning in from. That would be a great help for us. Today we have a great lineup, and we're going to skip a lot of the preamble because guess what? We know what we're doing this week, and you know what we're doing. For those of you that are our regular people who joined us last week and are joining us this week. And so we thank you for being a part of this whole experience and this whole journey. And if you have any comments, suggestions, please let us know how we can help you so that we can grow this channel, so we can grow together and jump on this journey together. So let's talk about today's lineup. We got a great lineup for you, at least I think so. I've been working with this for a while now. Ever since our first show last week, I said, how can I get better? What can we do that's better? So today's live lineup looks like this. We're going to start with the word of the week, and then we have a fantastic interview with Amy Post. And I got to be honest with you, Amy and I met her for the first time about a half hour ago, and I got to tell you, she's great people. This is going to be a great interview. We had such a great conversation. I had to kind of stop myself and say, okay, I am enjoying talking with you, but I need to make sure that this show goes off okay. So stay tuned for that, an interview with Amy Post. After that, we're going to go with our power play. And if you recall, the power play is basically something that you can do immediately after you're done watching this live show, something that could hopefully help you in some sort of way. So we invite you to be a part of that. And then we'll pose a question for you so that until next time, we can continue the conversation around swimming with sharks, adventures in sales ops. So thank you for joining us today in our live show. We're coming to you live every Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Tuesdays at 2, Swimming with Sharks, Adventures in Sales Ops. So thank you all for joining us. Let's get to our word of the week. Last week, we talked about force. Something, now not Star Wars, but something that we were able to do that can really help spin that flywheel and get things moving and get things going quickly. Well, let's talk about the opposite this week, friction. And if you've been a part of, or if you've done any of the HubSpot certifications, especially the ones from Kyle Jepson, the sales guru over there at HubSpot Academy, if you've done any of those certifications, you know what friction is. And so the HubSpot definition of friction is anything that slows down the flywheel. And of course, we want to get that flywheel spinning very quickly. So a lot of times, in order to identify what that friction is, we got to take a step back. We got to be able to say, hey, let's stop worrying about putting more force and more force on our flywheel. Let's take a step back and let's take a look at internally. And sometimes that's a tough conversation to have with yourself and with your team. But taking a step back and identifying maybe there is a lack of communication that can cause friction for a lot of people. A lack of communication, that could be a lack of internal communication, whether that's between marketing and sales or sales and service. There could also be a lack of communication with your customers or a lack of communication with potential customers, with your leads as well. And of course, this slows down your flywheel. This is what creates and causes friction. So you could also have maybe a poor process. You could have some poor processes in place. And again, it's hard to look at that and really take a hard look at your processes because maybe you've been living with them for a while, or you haven't been living with those processes very long. And so being able to retool and streamline those processes, that's very important to help you reduce the friction in your flywheel. And then finally, and this is a very umbrella kind of broad term here, we're talking about misalignment. A lot of times when there's misalignment, either internally or externally with your customers, with your clients, with your leads, with the people that you're nurturing into a relationship with you and your company, your products and services, if there's any sort of misalignment, that is what will cause friction. So we're very good. We said this last week. We're very good at adding force, adding more salespeople, adding more things, adding more tech, adding more things to do to really try to speed up, adding more force and get that flywheel moving very quickly. But a lot of times we try to do and do and do, but we negate or we don't even think about the possibility that there is built-in friction, internal friction that we need to deal with in order to make that extra force you're putting on your flywheel effective. And sometimes if you reduce the friction, you don't need to apply more force. Rather than trying to hire more people to make more calls, to do more things for you, try reducing that friction by taking a good hard look at what you're doing. So that's the word of the week this week. That is friction. I highly encourage you to take a look at some of those Academy certifications from HubSpot. They're a great way to learn more about force and friction, two of the things that we've been talking about. So now it is time for our interview. And so I'm very excited about this because Amy is a former television news reporter. She has 2 kids from Ethiopia. She is a former marathon runner turned cyclist. And frankly, if you think she did a great job, I'm sure she will. If you direct message her on LinkedIn, there's her handle right there for LinkedIn. If you direct message her and you say, Amy, you did a great job on the interview. I want to send you something. Send her wine because wine is her jam. So, and that's a direct quote right there. Amy is the National Marketing Manager for ODL Incorporated. We're going to learn a little bit more about ODL, but please, if you would, take a moment to welcome Amy Post.
Hello.
Hey, Amy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Let me just line up our window a little bit here, bring you over just a little bit.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Of the whole work at home thing.
Yes, exactly. Now, I'm very excited for this interview. Number one, Amy tells me that she cleaned for this interview. So that is an important thing. So I'm lucky because I have my own little studio in my house. But you're right. This whole work from home thing, it takes time and you got to do what you got to do. So we're glad to have you with us, Amy. Let me ask you more of a personal question. Well, first of all, welcome, and thank you for joining us. And I wanted to know, let's start off something easy for you. What are you watching? What are you binging on Netflix right now?
You know, everybody's binging on something, right?
Exactly.
So actually yesterday, over the holiday weekend, I just started watching $1 Million Beach House.
Ooh, well, we know where you're gonna retire to.
I think that's what it's called. It just follows the life of a real estate agent, and in these high-end Hampton properties. So I've been kind of getting into that. I'm a huge HGTV junkie. I don't really love to watch a lot of TV, so I really limit it to like anything that I don't have to make a super big commitment to.
I gotcha. I'm sure your two children keep you very busy. What are their ages?
I have a son who is 10 and a daughter who is 7. And so yeah, they're busy in soccer and gymnastics now. Thankfully, we're back at it here in Michigan. They're back in school. So we're kind of going back to a normal. I wouldn't call it what we were used to, but our current normal. I hate the phrase.
What is normal?
Everybody's using
right.
it. But
yes, I've gotten that email.
Our current normal.
Right. Yes, exactly. The normal for today or for this week, because you know, like you said, new normal. Everyone's using that phrase. I've gotten that email as well. So. So when
we're all in this together, Will.
You're pulling out all those cliches today. Oh, I love it. That is hilarious. So tell me, when you talk to your kids about if they ask you, you know, Mommy, what do you do? How do you describe to them what you do?
Essentially, I help showcase front doors and make them prettier. So if I were to tell my kids, I say, I make front doors pretty. ODL makes door glass and door glass frames. We don't make a door, despite what many people think. We only make the glass and the frame that glass goes into, but it does transform the door into something pretty visual and very pretty and interesting. So for my end of the ODL universe, that's what I do. ODL has a lot of different channels and ways we go to market, but that's the one that's kind of my baby.
And I guess your self-professed addiction to HGTV certainly enhances that. You, I guess, a little curb appeal. That's part of your. Very good. Okay, I like that. Very good. So, well, let me ask you this. What's one thing, and I'm going to just go right for it here. You can be as determined as you want with this answer. What is one thing that everybody that you see in your space, what should everybody in your space, what should they just today stop doing? Stop doing this.
That's an easy question. In the building industry, in the millwork business, everything is really behind. We used to say before COVID, we used to say that we were about 10 years behind everybody else. I would say now we're only about 5. We've really come a long way in 6 months.
Yeah, just a little bit of time. Okay, super.
But we had the industry as a whole has a real heavy reliance on printed literature as a sales strategy, and making sell sheets and catalogs for sales reps to bring when they go on sales calls. Well, I know that you and I both know not a lot of sales calls are happening these days. And not a lot of catalogs have much effect if nobody's coming into the showroom to look at them.
Right.
So I would say to not eliminate completely, but I would say to drastically reduce the amount of print literature that you're doing in the building marketing space. It's wasteful.
So in your opinion, why are people still doing it then? I mean, we have so many indicators that things have changed. And like you said, a lot of people have come, the industry has come very far in 6 months. So why do you think they're still doing it then?
Because it's what's always been done. It's a very old industry. A lot of the people that were in it 50 years ago are still in it today. Now, granted, the clock is ticking and there will be quite a change in the next 3 to 5 years or sooner, depending on, what happens with the building industry in the next few years. But yeah, I think it's just comfortable. It's always worked. So disruption can be a challenge for people who have been in the industry doing the same thing for, 40 plus years.
So the old, well, that's the way we've always done it. Kind of excuse there. Okay.
Well, and for ODL specifically, I mean, we've been in business for 75 years.
Gotcha.
So we even see it within our own walls that we struggle with that too, and not branching out, not trying new things. Now, I'm of the thought, let's do what we've always been good at and put some fire underneath it and try to do it better with new functionality and new tools and new resources.
Okay, so what is that fire? What should everyone start doing? Name that fire. Give us the match. Tell us what it is.
Yeah. Well, for us, now granted, I work very siloed in, the building industry and specifically in the door world. So I would say the most important thing in talking to businesses like ours, get control of your website. First things first. There's so many companies in our business that just paid somebody to make them a website, and that's their go-to to make content updates or changes or anything. And that just really, it causes friction. Because
you're good.
It causes friction because you can't get the content out fast enough that your customers need to make purchasing decisions if you're not able to just log in and make a simple content change. So I think that's one of the things that in our industry, people need to change quickly, is to get control of that website.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great first start. Would you say that, so you have your print materials, and then the website was kind of like, oh, it's off over there, is kind of like, this is a fun little experiment. Would that be a nice way to kind of describe what's
Yeah,
happening?
it was servicing like a glorified business card. It would have contact information on it, and maybe a few pictures of product. Maybe the more advanced company or other businesses that we work with, our customers and their customers, they might have a catalog, a PDF of their catalog on their website, but
Okay.
definitely no blog content, not a ton of social media investment. Now, granted, this is not everybody. There are a few. I don't want to hear from
Right.
some of my people later saying, "Hey,
There are no
that's
comments
not
right now.
everybody." But I would say there is a very large chunk of the building manufacturing space that doesn't have any of that.
Okay. Okay. So let's say somebody's listening to this right now. What should be and they hear, okay, I have to get control of my website. What's the first thing that they should do in order to take the next step?
Well, for us, it was to get HubSpot, because we were built on a custom solution before. So literally every time I wanted to make a change, I had to, grab the phone. So thankfully, I had that knowledge to know that the HubSpot CMS is insanely easy to work within. So I'm like, you know what? We need to get this pulled over to the HubSpot CMS. So that was literally probably week 3. I said, okay, guys, this has to happen. It might have even been sooner than that.
Wow.
So that was really the first thing that I thought of. Now, granted, that knowledge is my power. Whereas in some people in this world wouldn't know to do that. But then they need to watch things like this so they can learn, and then they can get it, because HubSpot's insanely user friendly. So
Right.
pretty much anybody, you can train one person to use it, and then you have control once you switch the website over.
Very good. I like that. Oops, I lost her for a second there. Oops, there we go.
Oh, there's
Hey,
that.
you're back. This is why we are live. Listen, anything can happen. So, and just a reminder to our viewers, if you want to just throw in the comments somewhere, if you're watching on Facebook or on Twitter or on YouTube, I believe we have it working. Please let us know where you're watching from. So, Amy, what's one thing that you just can't that you completely disagree with that you see happening in your space beyond what you've told us already? Is there something else that's just kind of digging at you?
Outside of the printed materials, getting control of your website, embracing things digital. I guess, I'd love to see the building industry as a whole be more diverse in our audience and the people making decisions. But that's probably, a little bit more personal than anything. A big part of how the building industry goes to market is through trade shows. And when you look around at certain trade shows where it's our industry and our group of people, they all look the same. And
Gotcha.
so I'd like to see this industry embrace a little bit more diversity and more culture to really expand, because I think that's part of the reason that the industry hasn't adapted to change at all.
Oh, I see.
Like,
Okay.
when you have, not to say that every person that's 50, white and male thinks the same way, they certainly don't, but they come from similar worldviews.
Right.
A lot of them probably share similar worldviews. So I am a big fan of diversity and bringing in lots of different thoughts and interests and things like that. So I'd like to see that.
Oh, I really like that. I like that statement. That's very good, and certainly, great for any time, any age, not just now, but certainly for the future. So,
Right.
yeah, I like that a lot. You said something about trade shows. How is the building industry? How are you guys handling not having those trade shows, not being able to shake hands and give out business cards, and heaven forbid, not being able to, give out your product catalogs?
I know, right?
How are people, how are you handling this? Give us an example.
Yeah, much like most industries, like I mentioned earlier, we've gained about 5 years of time in about 6 months, which has been, one of the blessings out of this whole crazy situation we're all going through. is that, for me now, I have people coming and asking for different things that they probably wouldn't have asked me for before. And like trade shows is a great example. We don't have trade shows right now. Like, we've canceled, I think, probably 5 or 6 of our appearance. Well, they've canceled, and then we've
right. Yeah, makes sense.
We don't go. But yeah, that is an age-old way that we went to market. We'd go to these things, and every day you sit in those trade show halls and you network, and then you have dinner with the people that you're networking with, and then before you know it, they're placing orders with you, and that's part of the whole system.
Right.
Now, of course, those events are turning digital, but what's nice is that our sales team has really adapted to having to sell this way, via Zoom or whatever. And we're now creating content. When we used to make a sell sheet for a new piece of decorative glass, now we're making videos, and we're explaining all the things that the sales rep would normally talk about in the video instead. And our sales reps are really embracing that, because that's their only touch point. That's the only way they can communicate at this point. Now there are some exceptions to that, but for the most part. So we've adapted really well so far. I mean, granted, our sales crew is itching to get back on the road. I mean, they are. Some of them are already doing it, but for the most part, we're adapting in using digital tools and trying to get the message across through Zoom and other tactics digitally. Website. Thankfully for us too, we did a whole, we didn't know, no one knew COVID was going to do this to us. So we happened to launch a brand new website, a brand new digital catalog with our pricing and optimized with video content, literally in January.
Oh, wow.
So
timing is everything.
Like sitting there waiting for COVID to hit. And so now we have those tools and resources already available, thank goodness, for all the people that needed it, because I wouldn't have wanted to be scrambling around trying to get that taken care of.
Get this done. Right. Yeah. Accomplishing 5 years worth of scrambling in 6 months. That does not sound like a good time for anyone involved. You said something interesting about, I love how your sales reps are embracing video. Mind you, realizing that, as you said, they're itching to get back out there. But one thing that I noticed, and maybe you can expand on this a little bit, they were basically doing they were saying what they normally say, only on video. Can you give us some strategies to help someone, I don't know, the salesperson that I know what I have to say, I'm just a little camera shy. Do you have any strategies or any ways that we can really, that we can help a salesperson or an organization get into that sales, get over the whole video thing and get into the video thing and really start embracing this now?
Well, one of the things that if they do have marketing support, most marketing teams today are trying to help control the message. And if they're not, they should be. Gotcha. They should be helping enable their sales reps with the content they need to deliver that message. So straight up, we will hijack the content and we will do it. And we will hand it to them.
Yes.
And we will say, so you do a Zoom call, and then press play.
There. I have visions like you've done this before. You've experienced. This is the voice of experience right now.
Yeah. And it's not to say that they can't say these things, but we have a powerful opportunity right now to control the messaging. And marketing, that's all we want to do is control the messaging. So if your marketing department is not supporting the sales teams right now in that way, they probably should be. And there's tons of great content coming out right now to learn about that. And I know we talked about overwhelming of webinars, but if you're specific on what you want to learn, you can find that content out there. Your marketing team should be enabling that sales crew though to be able to have the right message and come across knowledgeable without really having to be. And then they can just focus on the relationship, because in our world, and I know it sounds old school and I didn't believe it at first either, we are a highly relational business in the building industry, highly relational. And if the sales rep can just focus on the relationship and not the content stress of making sure they say this about how the decal looks against the sun and whatever. They're not able to speak that language. So if you're able to eliminate all the stress of that, and give them a video that articulates that, they should be able to focus on the relationship.
So are you saying they should kind of reduce the pretty words or the scripts and focus more on the person in front of you, which may not be at dinner time, however, in front of you via video? Is that correct?
Right. I think that yeah, and try not to, you don't need to have some, memorized sales conversation. Treat it like you would treat that dinner as much as you can. And then ask your marketing team for some support on what should I be showing them? What should I be sending to them prior to this sales call? What can I do to help educate them about this product or service better? Because even if they send you a sell sheet and you hold it up and you show that it's them, I don't know, depending on your resources, however much you have.
Take a look at the slide.
I don't care what it is, but just help them out.
I love that. I think I really like that a lot. I'm wondering so give me just one way that they can focus in or even a tool, something where sales reps can really focus in on the relationship. Because, they have quotas that they have to make. They have stresses and pressures just like everybody else. But what's one way to really help them zero in and focus in and really concentrate on that relationship that you're talking about?
I think a lot of it has to do with personalization, and we can talk about personalization.
How much time we got?
Yeah, exactly. But I think that, I heard I was listening to a podcast a few days ago, and somebody had said, because we all know the supply chain is a mess, regardless of what, if you're looking for Clorox wipes or you're looking for some door glass, we got supply chain problems all over the place.
That's an understatement.
Right? I mean, who knew we would all know about the supply chain?
Right, exactly. Very well educated.
But so, this guy who's, relies on companies like ODL to go to market and to create an end product that goes to builders. He's like, I just don't text me, don't email me, pick up the phone and tell me when my product's getting here. Because that's all I want to know. And if you do that and you confront it and you say, look, we're 8 days later than our typical lead times. At least I know I'm not getting that product for 8 days, and I don't sit every day getting more mad and more mad and more mad that I'm not getting it. So I think that there's an element that we have to focus on digital tools to help us execute better right now and into the future. But there's also an element of sales reps today. It's not good. It's not good anywhere. No perfect. I watch somebody's going to DM me and say, ours is perfect. It's never going to be perfect.
Well, if you get a DM from Jeff Bezos,
90% of supply chains are in the tank in some capacity or another.
I agree.
So
yes.
Have those sales reps pick up the phone and say, I'm sorry. Or, and this is big for my industry too. I'm trying to plead this message. Say you don't know. It's okay for you not to know. If you don't know that it's going to be 7 days, if it's going to be 2 weeks, say, I don't know. I'm working to get it to you. I just want you to know I care. And I'm going to focus on getting this for you as soon as I can. We cannot be afraid, especially in COVID times. Another word I hate.
These challenging times is the phrase you're looking for.
What? I'm sorry.
These challenging times is the phrase that I think you're looking for. Yes.
Or unprecedented.
Oh yes.
I'm so sick of it. But no, if I can say nothing else about that, call your people. Be okay with an answer that they might not like. They'd rather have the answer. And if you don't know, don't be afraid to say it.
I've always been told, I love that. I've always been told, listen, if even when things are bad, just over communicate, especially when things are bad. And especially if you don't know, hey, I don't know when this is going to be here, but I will let you know when I do know. And there's that, too many people, sorry, you've said so many things. I just want to unpack it really quickly. So many people say, well, you can do that automation. It's great. We have it. But then they negate or they forget about that personal touch. And it doesn't have to be either or, one or the other. It can be both and. And if you're doing both those things, you're really making a great experience. And I think really, moving those flywheels. Go ahead.
Yeah, and make sure those match. Don't send one thing out that says something about how your supply chain is perfect now, and then your sales reps get on the phone and say, yeah, that's not what's really happening. just be open. I think at ODL we did a great job in those early days, because we completely shut down our manufacturing plant for several weeks, which we're still recovering from. I'll just say it out loud. We are not back to normal. We are close. We've been working every day since then. But we over communicated and we told everybody exactly what was transpiring. And I think we're on the upper hand because of it. I think also the housing boom just happens to help, but we didn't lose customers like we thought we might. People stayed loyal because we told them we were sorry and that we were going to do whatever we could to recover. And that's what we've stayed firm with since.
I love that. And you're one step ahead of me. That's exactly what I was going to ask you next. Give me an example of something that you you've recently achieved that you're proud of. And I think you just described it very well. Yeah, it wasn't perfect. It wasn't anybody's quarter this year. It wasn't anybody's time to really grow. However, we were able to adapt and we made these changes. And we had to, eat a little crow and say, we don't know. And there was an awkwardness there, but we named it, we claimed it, and we moved on from there. Would you say that's an accurate assessment?
Yeah, it's completely accurate. I mean, now granted, that's not to say it was perfect. We did have some upset people,
right.
But that's part of the relationship factor that, we screwed up, but we got back up, and we cared about you, and you are a priority, and making sure that they understood that. So that was, essentially that's what took place. We're still climbing out, but we're almost there.
Well, I think everybody is climbing out. It's just the degree into which how far we have to climb, I think, is the difference between one space and another space. So let me ask you this. Again, this is kind of my last question, and I try to ask this of everybody. As a leader in your space, what cadences or what kind of rhythms? I really like productivity. I really want to know, what are some of the things that you do, cadences or rhythms that you find on a daily basis or even a weekly or monthly basis? What are some of the things that you do that really help you do your job better?
Oh, what are some typical cadences? I mean, always be measuring. I think that's an important thing. Always be watching your data if you are able. You can make so many, and this is kind of getting into the weeds of digital marketing and back to the whole controlling.
So give us the cliff note.
A shift. But I think it's important to let data tell you the story when you're making decisions about what you should do. If something is performing, put some fire under it. And never lose sight of it. The minute you lose sight of it, it could tank and you don't know, and then you're spending time, money, and resource into something that's not working. So I think that's an important thing. Always be measuring.
I know I said that was going to be the last question, but I have one more. What is, and I think I know the answer to this based on what you've said so far. What is one tool that it's open on your computer either all the time, or you just can't live without this one tool?
And I know I don't want people to think that this is some HubSpot sales pitch. It's not. It's just what we use. It's what we built our website on. It's what we run our marketing automation through. It's how we manage social media. We use pretty much everything in HubSpot except for the customer experience, I forget, hub, whatever they call it. And we use Salesforce as our CRM. But tying your system, this is what I'll say. So just to make it not, HubSpot is my tool. Okay. I really like it. But I do think what's important is to be using HubSpot with your CRM, and if you can, your services platform, to really create that flywheel experience so that you can give it force and you can identify friction. If you don't have the right systems in place talking to each other, you're going to end up with a lot more friction and not being able to always measure what's working and what's not.
Oh, I love that. I can't think of a better way to wrap things up. Amy, you've been fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate the wisdom that you gave to all of us. And is there anything else you want to leave us with? Any one pearl of wisdom or one last nugget before we go?
No, I wish everybody health and safety out there right now, and that you guys are doing well despite all that's going on in this world.
Well, thanks so much, Amy. Thanks for your time. Of course, please, if you have any questions for Amy, you could have been asking all during this whole interview through comments and everything, but if you're a little shy on social media, that's okay. You can direct message her on LinkedIn. You can get in touch with her that way, or just get in touch with me or with ManoByte, and we can hook you up that way. Amy, thank you so much for your time today. Nice job today.
This was fun. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your time. All right. So before we get going, everyone, here comes your power play. Thank you for joining us today. And don't leave just because Amy's gone right now, but please go ahead and just join us for the last 5 minutes here. If you have any comments, suggestions, questions, put them on social media. And this is a simple one. This is a very simple power play. What you can do as soon as you leave here. And this is almost obvious because they're all over the place, but sometimes the things that are everywhere, we kind of neglect them. So you know what I'm talking about. You can ask Alexa to set up a timer. You can ask your Android phone. You can ask Google. You can ask anyone and to set up a timer for you. And this is important because maybe you've heard the phrase, well, I'm a deadline-driven kind of person, and that usually goes along with some sort of deadline that you might have that's in the future on the calendar. But what about right now? How can we speed up your productivity? How can we somehow just get you to focus? And what I always say is to use a timer. So the example I always like to give, and this is a simple one from my life, and that is I like old-fashioned oatmeal. I know, I'm kind of an ordinary guy. I like old-fashioned oatmeal, and it's 2 minutes in the microwave. I was waiting one day for my breakfast to finish up, and I asked my son, I said, can you unload the dishwasher while I'm waiting? And he did the funniest thing. He said, I bet you can't get all of it unloaded in the 2 minutes that it takes to cook your oatmeal. And what did I do? I'm a competitive person. Of course, I went ahead and I got it done. So this is just an example. How can you apply that into your business and work life? Well, very simply, set a timer. And not just the timer that you have in Asana, how much time you're spending on a task, or in the timer in teamwork, but set yourself a personal timer using your cell phone, asking Siri, whatever you need to do to set that timer, to speed up your productivity, to use your devices, get a timer app, do something that'll help you focus in on that 20-minute deadline, or that if it's something simple, that 2-minute deadline, or if it's a longer project, spend an hour on it rather than spending 3 hours on it all at once. Spend an hour on it, then focus in on something else. And so today's power play is try using timers. Try using timers in your daily productivity and in your daily life to help you speed up productivity by using your devices or through an app, but really help you focus and being productive. And before we go, I have one question. You can either answer it now in the comments, or if you're watching the replay, please send us a message or reply to it, put it in the comments on YouTube. But who do you think is the next breakout thought leader? And I'm going to start asking this of our guests on the show. Who is the next breakout thought leader? Who's about to make waves? Maybe there's somebody in your organization or in your company that you just think, wow, this person is so good. She has a really, really smart head on her shoulders, and she is definitely the company's unsung hero. She's not into being an influencer or a thought leader or anything like that, but man, she should be. Is there a book, a blog, a social media post that's associated with this person? Or is it somebody that you've connected with on LinkedIn? So who is that next breakout thought leader? And maybe to you, they're just on the cusp of something great. So let us know who that is and help us get in contact with them. Maybe they would like to be a part of our Swimming with Sharks show. And so that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for, if you didn't watch it live, thank you for being a part of this the replay, because we are going to post it and we are going to grab some of those nuggets of wisdom that Amy shared with us today. Thanks so much, Amy. And we didn't get too many comments this time around, but please help us have a conversation. And so until next time, let's start up that conversation. Please get in touch with me through ManoByte. You can also get in touch with me through LinkedIn, but let's grow this show together so that together, Tuesdays at 2, every Tuesday at 2, we can learn something new, we can get better, we can find something out from leaders of industry and really do a fantastic job and really grow. And so thank you for those of you that have joined us, and thank you for watching Swimming with Sharks, and may all your adventures be great ones.